I'm Times New Media Coordinator Robert Blaszkiewicz, here with Times editorial page editor Doug Ross, and we're continuing our series of primary election previews. Today we're going to be looking at the Lake County Council races, and there's several of them to go through, so we'll try to get through these fairly quickly. In the first district, on the Democratic side, we have four candidates, Chris Allegra, Louis Carubas, Marty Del Rio, and Michael Repay. Talk about that race.
Okay, sure. Quickly, we have Chris is a administrative assistant for Hammond Police Chief Brian Miller, so you know she knows her way around a spreadsheet. She could probably find ways that way. Louis Carubas is former Hammond City Councilman. He definitely could because he's got a history of doing that. Marty Del Rio, I talked to him and honestly I couldn't pry a commitment out of him with a crowbar. I just couldn't get him to commit to anything. He kept saying he'd go back to his friends that he was networking with and talk to them about the issues once he got in. Repay was pretty interesting. He was the only candidate of all of the ones I talked to this election season who said, look, we've got all these problems at the jail. It's time to talk about whether to outsource the whole operation, privatize the whole shebang. That's good out-of-the-box thinking.
Okay, so Michael Repay received our endorsement.
Right.
Okay, in the second district, we have the incumbent Democrat Elsie Franklin being challenged by two other Democrats, Kenny White and Andrew Ledbetter. Let's talk about that.
Okay, Kenny White is he's a good think tank type of guy. He was the one that said he wanted to look into like studying each county employee's productivity to see what could be done. And also I found this interesting, the idea that he wanted to see if it was possible to capture some kind of kinetic energy to power appliances through stoplights. I was lost, in all honesty, on that one. Andrew Ledbetter, he was very focused on Gary-specific issues, and so I didn't think he really had the whole county's interests at heart, not the whole picture concept. Elsie Franklin, I'm not real impressed with her, to be honest. We endorsed her, but she's done some things, and she does work hard. She puts in a full-time job as a council person. But
okay, moving on to the third district, we have the incumbent Jerome Prince, who's being challenged by Democrats Herbert Smith and Lita Filippo. There's kind of an interesting wrinkle in this race with Herbert Smith. Talk about that. Right.
Well, he suspended his race while he was trying to get a county contract for electronic monitoring. I guess, I don't know if you call them inmates or not, if they're not, well, people who would otherwise be behind bars, we'll just call it that.
Home detention kind of
Home
thing.
Detention, exactly. So, if you're going to do the catch and release fishing thing, book them and release them, then you're going to have to monitor them. And so I'm really unclear, and I think the county is unclear about, whether he would do pretrial people or convicted, who knows. But in any case, there's that whole issue, and that just, the idea of doing business with the county, while you're a candidate or while you're a council person, just, strikes us as wrong.
Yeah, the timing just muddles all
exactly.
that up. Sure.
Lita seems to be eager enough, but doesn't have a real good grasp of the issues at this point. And Jerome Prince, I have to tell you, for a guy who comes from one of the urban core cities, Gary, Hammond, Chicago, he's from Gary, and he's a cut person, and that's what the county needs.
Okay. Okay, the fourth district, this is our only Republican race. Can you talk about those candidates? Dan Dernulk, Daniel Langmesser, and Eric Craig.
Sure. Eric builds himself as the candidate of no. He's against the RDA, against against county income tax, against any number of things, but it's hard to get a good sense of what he's for, and so he just wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
Langmesser, as I recall, he just didn't have it. Dan Dernulk, no, he's got some possibilities. He's the one that has moved the Little Cal project forward, and so it's hard to argue with his success there.
Yeah. In the 5th district, we have the county council president, Christine Sid, the incumbent, and she's being challenged by a local activist, Ron Hayes, who's well known, along with Alicia Lopez Rodriguez.
Well, that's an interesting race. Now, philosophically, the idea of a county employee, which Christine is, she's working in the clerk's office currently in East Chicago. You know, the idea of having a county employee being their own boss is just wrong. Yeah. The Indiana Commission on Local Government Reform's against it. We're against it. So, you know, that was a pretty big strike against her. Ron Hayes he's a community activist, and that's his strength, and he just needs to go with his strength. Alicia Lopez Rodriguez, she has some pretty good ideas, frankly. She ran for mayor of East Chicago, and so she knows the community real well, possibly because of that, but she seems like a real go-getter.
Okay. No contested races in the 6th district. Moving on to the 7th district, we have 3 Democrats, Karen Mason, John Zanone, and Wendy Vandertuck.
Okay, that's an interesting race also. Now, Karen is, she ran for mayor of Crown Point in 2007. She's very knowledgeable about Crown Point issues and eager to talk about them, but I got the sense that her husband knows a lot more about the county and how it operates, and would be the one prompting her on those until she could get up to speed anyway. John worked for the county for years as a police officer, then he worked with the work release, and then now as some kind of a compliance officer in the jail. So, you know, he's got all of that. But Wendy really was impressive. She's a flight attendant, and you know, okay, so people have that stereotype about flight attendants, but you know what? She really seemed to know her stuff. She, you know, talked about, you know, not going for the income tax, about bringing in a grants writer for the county, but also, you know, she's got a master's in public administration, and she wants to bring in master's degree candidates to help this grants person. So, yeah, that's not a bad idea either.
Yeah. Well, that takes care of our Lake County Council races. We encourage you to pick up the times, continue to pick up the times this week for more endorsements, and continue logging on to NWI.com, where we'll be back with more videos.
Thank you.